just going to read a few brief ones. At the Cam Hammer, unfun take. If legendary player sportscaster don't want fans wearing jerseys, hell, nobody should buy merch then. Matter of fact, let's lower the TV contracts and the salaries too.
Oh.
Wow.
I got a, what is it? Don James Sports. Horrible take at Matt Sluka QB, and I love you. Like, just a double sword. Just like, God, I love you, but you suck.
And here we go. Another episode of Throwbacks coming at you right now. I got to thank everybody who is following us on all social media platforms. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Everything is Throwback Show. It's very easy. So, yeah, subscribe to us on YouTube. But, Matt, the social media interaction, before we get going today.
What do you mean? What happened this week?
You know, you had a strong take, and we're going to talk about it later in the show, about grown men leaving the house in jerseys. And here you are today. If you're audio only, Matt is wearing a Laker jersey.
By the way, not just a Laker jersey.
The Laker jersey.
The Kobe Bryant jersey that I've owned for about 15 years, okay? I actually there is a photo out there. I did wear this jersey to a Laker game. I did.
Okay, well, listen, save it.
There is a picture out there, and I will post this. We will post this on the show. There is a picture out there of me wearing this jersey, talking to Kobe on the court. But that is the last time I wore this jersey in public.
Well, some might say that's a little hypocritical. A lot of you out there on
just
X
getting
and
crushed.
Instagram, though, we actually pulled your comments because this is the first time either of us have faced public pressure from a take. Happens all the time to the takers. All those takers. Yeah. But now you had a take, and you're getting public pressure. Will Matty Ice back down? And also another fun thing for the show today, okay? This is kind of we're featuring the Leinarts heavily. We have Josie Leinart joining us,
dude,
on the show today.
Well, you know what? The wives are going to make a lot of appearances throughout Throwbacks, right? Because we're going to talk, parents and I mean, our better halves. Listen, I think we want to give the people, the listeners, what they want. They want to hear the wives just talk down on us. Okay, that's fine. But my wife is also just a badass attorney and NIL and all these things, and just a big week in NIL. So she's going to kind of break down what all that means and kind of the world of NIL, which is it's just fascinating because it's ever changing. I mean, daily, not just like weekly, monthly, daily.
Yeah, we're going to get a story a day. I feel like obviously a lot of us are focused on UNLV now. So we definitely want to ask Josie about that because it's going to be a story a day, or at least weekly as it all progresses. But, you were just in Ohio. You were just in Ohio, right? You were at Ohio State for a minute.
I mean, listen, just an easy dub for them. But more importantly, buddy, I mean, Jeter, Bahamas.
I was gone.
How was it? I followed your life on Instagram. How was the weekend?
So, yeah, I would have loved to have seen you in Columbus, but I went to the Bahamas. Now, look, folks, it still shocks me that I get this invitation. This is not like a look how cool I am. I go to the Jeter invitation. I still can't believe I'm there. It takes everything in me to not because
dude, but once you're in, you're in.
Right, but it's yes. Although you could get banned if you don't act. If you don't act right, you could get a lifetime ban. But I grew up on those 90s Yankees teams. So when you walk into a hotel to check in, and then right behind you, it's like Tino Martinez and Jorge Posada. It's just a wild experience as a baseball fan, and it was so fun to be there with all these Hall of Fame baseball players and amazing baseball players, and then Ohtani does what he does. We'll talk about that later because we got to start locking into baseball as the playoffs are a week out.
What was like the best part of the weekend? I know you had wasn't it closest to the pin? I saw you a little gambling in the casino. Like, what was the best part?
Now, I was also joined by my fellow Entourage co-stars, Kevin Connolly and Kevin Dillon. So it's always nice to, in a land filled with athletes, to not be the only non-athlete there. So that was cool. Closest to this pin, which we spoke about. What I did not know last year I didn't win. This year I didn't win. What I didn't know was we were going to basically get roasted while swinging. Anthony Anderson, who we all love, was on the microphone with Ahmad Rashad. roasting every player that came. It didn't matter who. It could have been CC Sabathia, me, Connolly. But sure enough, at one point with like 4 people to go, Kevin Connolly with his little hockey swing, good little golf swing, puts it on, and he's like out of 6-7 feet away. It's like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to hear about Kevin Connolly winning closest to the pin for the rest of my life. I was rooting for him though. I wanted one of us to represent. And sure enough, who do you think steps up? The crime dog, Fred McGriff.
Fred McGriff.
One of the most beautiful of course he has a beautiful
of course.
lefty swing. And then he stuck it like 4 feet. He edged out Connolly by less than 2 feet. And they give him a champion. You get a championship belt. You get
I was going to say, what do you win? You get a
belt.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And
you don't get a
pride.
car? You don't get a car or anything?
You don't get a car. You don't get any of that. You get pride. But a few takeaways. There was a bunch of takeaways.
When you get back together with the boys from Entourage, is it like, I know you talked to them, is it like, dude, years haven't gone by, it's the same old shenanigans and all that with those guys?
Yes. So, you know, at one time after one of the dinners and stuff, we went to go gamble. Kevin Dillon. This is as Kevin Dillon as it gets right here.
I'm already laughing. I don't even know.
It's like, hey, bro, we got to play some craps. I got a new method. It's called the Iron Cross. I'm like, okay, let's go. So this sounds like an opening to a bad joke. It was me, Dylan, Connolly, and Johnny Damon go walking up to a craps table. Now, Johnny Damon is, by the way, a stud. Loved hanging with him.
Great
so
dude,
fun.
yeah.
He's rocking, on one hand, he's got the 09 Yankees championship ring. On the other hand, he's got the 04 Red Sox championship ring. He's got them both on. Hair back, just looking amazing. And we all buy in for a bunch of money, and Dylan's telling us what to bet. And I lost my shirt. Johnny lost his shirt. Connolly lost it. The only one who won was Dylan.
Wait, what's the Iron? What's the Iron Cross?
The Iron Cross is basically you're covering every number on the field. You're covering the field. You're covering the 6 and 8. You're basically not winning a lot, but you're also not losing a lot. And somehow, to the point where people were coming up to, it wasn't just us. Later, like Dexter Fowler and Cliff Floyd came up to Dylan and gave him the Iron Cross sign.
Isn't that the best around a craps table when there's a couple guys, it gets rowdy, loud, all of a sudden there's just like 50 people just hollering. By the way, you can win a hell of a lot of money real quick, or you can lose a hell of a lot of money.
We got waved off. At one point, I think there was some friend, I don't know if they were people at the event or they were playing in the pit on the crap table, the high roller area. And one guy like waved us up to come hang out. And another guy waved us off because they were on a heater. And I don't think they wanted us messing up the vibes of the table. But it was just awesome. Like I played the first day with Cliff Floyd.
And the white
Cliff Floyd, right?
Yeah, Cliff Floyd. Yeah, Bree was there, right? Good little.
Bree was there.
Guys.
Bree was there on the. Well, I didn't really get to see her because the golf is every day. But Bree was at a water park. She was on the beach.
Did she get a miss? I mean, she's just chilling. At that point, it's just like a vacation.
Yes.
You know, see old friends, spend some time, have alone time, and all that.
But it was incredible, man. Yeah, and it was really humbling to see. Like I said, I mentioned Cliff Floyd playing with him the first day. And he's a good golfer. I don't know how long he's been golfing, but he's just ripping 340-yard drives. Just like, I don't need to hit in those situations. I'm just like, all right, we'll go play. We'll go play Cliffs. But you, Matt, have to just start playing for nothing else consistently, just to come to.
I know.
It'd be good for throwbacks. It'd be good for throwbacks.
Dude, I'm telling you, the next time you come to LA, we're playing. In an event like that, curious from your perspective, who like we talk about fandom and like, hey, like if I see an actor or someone like, oh dude, that's so-and-so, who are you just like, I mean, Jeter is the captain. Jeter's kind of a god in baseball and sports, but is there someone that weekend that you're like, dude, that's Fred McGriff. That's pretty rad. Was there someone there this weekend?
Last year it was Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
I was nerd.
He's a beast, dude.
I
My
was
favorite
asking
player.
him, I wanted to make golf shoes out of his old baseball shoe. I'm like, can we make that into a golf shoe? That would be amazing. You know, Jeter's always the one. And like I said, he's just always been very cool to me over the years. I haven't seen him a ton, but yeah. And what's cool about this event, they showed some video, and it wasn't just like, oh, Jeter started doing really well with the Yankees and then years in started this charity. Like there was a video of like him and his dad in 95 when he was, I don't even think he had the ring yet when he started. Like he was a child almost. He was like 20 years old. So Turn 2's been going for a long time. And then the last part is the musical performance was Flow Rider. And man, it's stuck in my head now for days.
What
I can't get it out.
You
Whistle.
posted, what was it? Oh,
Whistle. I can't get whistle out of my head. It's ingrained in my brain.
By the way, I
And
saw Flow Rider in Vegas one night at a club. It was awesome. He's actually one of my favorite guys. Club Can't Handle Me Now, underrated.
Yeah, you
song.
don't realize how many
Dude, he's got
bangers
hits after hits.
Yeah, one after another. I'm like, oh my God, these are all. I remember being in a club when I heard this for the first time. So
Dude,
it was
what a
awesome,
weekend, buddy. What a weekend.
Yeah, got to see. It was really interesting to see Ohtani do some stuff, and then all these baseball players, and the vibe was very much. Screw this guy, man. It's not fair.
Right.
Like, this is
because
just incredible.
he's just so good. He's
yeah,
so
it's
good.
just
I mean, we might get into it later, but I tweeted out just like, I think he's the best player of all time. And I know he's got a lot of, look, I know, what he's 30?
Takes.
Dude.
Is he 30?
I think he's 30. I think he's a little old. I thought he was like 26, 25. But look, I mean, Barry Bonds, in my opinion, I know you can talk about the asterisk, whatever. Like, Barry Bonds is just arguably the greatest player of all time. You can go back to Willie Mays and all that. But like what he is doing, and he's not even pitching this year. That's the thing. Like, that dude could win. That dude might win a Triple Crown and a Cy Young in the same year. Like, that's possible. He's the only person on the planet that can do that. It's just that single best performance I think we've ever seen in baseball. That game.
Do you? Yeah. Well, let's save it. We'll get into more because I have a big question for you in regards to that and baseball, and as we gear up for the playoffs. But I mean, big week in college football just passed, and we got a big week coming up. Yes. I figure, I want to check in with you, and I know this is what you do. Big noon is going. I don't even know where you're going. I can't wait to ask you where you're going next. But we're gonna do Leinart's leaderboards. I'm just gonna quick hit you. Couple of easy questions just to get your temperature on what you're seeing, okay? Because I can't do it the way you can. Are you ready?
I'm ready, dude.
All right. Leinart's leaderboard. Who's the Heisman leader right now?
I think the Heisman leader, and this is based on the odds, is Cam Ward from Miami.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolute stud. Came back to school, came from Washington State. Has made Miami relevant again and a legit playoff team. I think he's playing really, really well. Travis Hunter is the other one. Yeah. And we're going to be at UCF Colorado this week. So we'll be in Orlando for this game, which is cool. So Travis Hunter is just doing something that we don't see really in any sport. We kind of just talked about Ohtani being a two-way player, right? Can pitch and can hit and all those things. But in football, what he's been able to do, and we've seen a couple players in the past, Charles Woodson is the one that won the Heisman in 97, I believe. But mainly as a defensive back. He had a couple returns, had a couple things on offense, but like he just had one of those years. And then he had that moment, right, where he had the punt return, all that. Travis Hunter is elite on both sides of the ball. I think he's averaging like 130 snaps a game. Like, think about that, dude. That is mind-boggling. And to be the best player on the field, arguably every time you're on the field, whatever side you want to go, hey, I'm going to be a corner today. Okay, I'm going to be a top 5 pick in the corner. Hey, I'm going to be a receiver today. I'm probably going to be a top 15 pick. Like, it's bananas, dude, what he's doing.
Well, his story is going to be interesting because, again, throwing it back to the days of Deion and Bo Jackson and two sport athletes, something I don't think we'll ever see again.
Right.
And then you always hear about, Russell Wilson. Yes, he's drafted by the Seahawks, but could have had a Major League Baseball career. Potentially he was drafted. But this is different where you're doing two things in one sport. And is that even sustainable at an NFL level?
I don't know if it is. I think
that's a lot of snaps, man.
It's a lot of snaps. And again, the step from college to pros is just different. You're lining up against Pro Bowl receiver. I mean, you're just going to get worn out in the NFL, and that's not a discredit to Travis Hunter. No, it's just going to be for him to be an elite player on both sides of the ball at the next level. It's just I wouldn't put it past him trying. I just don't see. NFL is a different ball game, man. It is a different ball game. And don't you think this kid plays receiver, right? Think about this. He plays a series and he's running a couple routes and all that. Then all of a sudden, the next series he's going, you don't think these quarterbacks are DK Metcalf or AJ? Like, right. Hey, dude, like, let's go pick on Trey. He just ran 3 go routes the series before. Right. Like, no, like people are smart. They do that. College is a little different. So it'll be interesting, though. He's a fascinating player, fascinating story. And I'm excited to see him this year. You know
what I wanted to ask you too, and I said this was going to be quick hit, and now I'm starting to dive in deep.
It's fine, dude.
Let's
go.
You are unique in a sense because, you know, you won a Heisman and then you had a teammate win a Heisman, right? So at this stage, you know, 4 games in, a third of the way in, a quarter of the way in, whatever, you start hearing, we all like we're talking about it today. A million other shows are going to talk about the Heisman. What is that like in the locker room when even your team knows, like, all right, you're a candidate?
Yeah.
You know, what? I know you're not supposed to focus on that because it's a team sport and you guys are chasing championships as well. Some teams only really have the Heisman candidacy. They're not.
It's
going
pretty,
anywhere.
dude. It's pretty cool. Like for me, I was obviously different. You know, the year I won, I didn't really think much of it because it kind of like you always talk about like games and moments. My Heisman moment at that point was Notre Dame. And that was like, hey, national television. I threw for 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. 2 years prior, Carson Palmer won it at USC kind of in the same game. So I kind of knew going into that game, like, hey, dude, this is kind of a moment. But I never really focused on it. And to be honest, that year. Now, when I came back for my senior year, I had zero pressure on me about the Heisman. I finished third, but I could care less. For Reggie, we all knew, our coaches, Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, and they would probably tell you this, like, we were trying to get him the Heisman Trophy every single week. Like, that was like, Reggie, hey, you go do your thing. You go be the best player in college football. The play callers are going to figure out ways to get you touches. They're going to figure out ways to make sure that you are having that type of season. Me as a quarterback, the same thing. We were all, so for your question, like we were just like, hell yeah, dude, let's get Reggie. Let's have back-to-back Heisman. This is going to be sick. Like we're like, he's going to get the Heisman Trophy. Now it's more up to the player, obviously, to make sure you're focusing on, hey, like if I play well, that's going to come regardless, you know? So it was pretty cool, man, to be, to share the backfield with him as a Heisman winner. But yeah, I mean, I didn't feel a whole lot of pressure expectation. So
yeah. So my only experience of it is, do you remember the movie The Program?
Oh, of course, dude.
To me, that's the
Cain
best.
Is Abel.
That's the best. I'll even say NFL. That's just the best football movie of all time. But the way they handled the Heisman stuff with Joe Cain and against Tim, he could go all the Wayman. But just how like, oh, he had one bad game, the team lost, his Heisman hopes are over. The only other way I try to relate to it is, you know, Adrian and I joke about this with Entourage all the time. Grenier and I were the only two who never got nominated for any Emmys or Golden Globes. And it's funny, but I had a front row seat to Kevin Dillon, who we spoke about earlier, who had 4 nominations. I remember seeing a scene where I'm like, yep, that's going to be in his Emmy presentation reel. Oh yeah, that's the one that they're gonna roll out. But
in a scene like that, like obviously when you read a script or you're doing that day, do you when you read it, you're like beforehand, because you don't really know. I'm trying to think, like you probably envision how a scene is going to play out clearly,
yes,
right? And that for you personally, like when you're about to do when you're reading a script, you're like, oh shit, dude, this is going to be like
100%.
Great. This is going to be great television, or this 100%. Is going to be like, I'm going to deliver the shit out of this. Like, yes. This could be great. So you have that feeling. That's cool.
And it doesn't always work out that smoothly, but with Dylan, you know, we'd always go to the table reading and a scene would play and get laugh. If you get a laugh in the table reading, it's usually funny. And I swear I took the approach of like a point guard almost. Like, I'm just going to feed these dudes lobs, you know? I'm just going to like tee him up and see how far he could hit it. Because he's gonna win. Piven won 3 Emmys in a row.
I was gonna say Piven was.
He three-peated.
I mean, he was a genius. Like, he was so.
He
good
three-peated.
Does he? I love like how much. I think we've talked about how much improv was on that show. I know that. I think you said like the Brady scene was improv, right? Or no?
Some of it was. I do have to say, Matt, not as much as you would think.
Really?
Yeah, really was on the page. Like those scripts were ready to go. I think what we always did was we'd get it as scripted.
Yeah.
And then we get like a free take and let it fly. And look, a lot of times the free ones suck. Right. You know, good thing it's a free one. So no, there wasn't a ton. There was always some, but there was not as much as you would think.
We'll save it, especially because when we get your boys on,
we're gonna get the boys on.
Like, I am always, to me, like when guys break character and just start laughing, and I'm sure you've been a part of that on that show. I want to get into. When we're all together, because I've been on that. I've been a part of that with our show, where it's just like, dude, you just can't stop. And live TV is obviously different than acting. You're doing other
Way
takes.
different.
But sometimes live, it's like, it's like Barkley and Shaq and those guys. Sometimes sometimes makes the best TV. I cannot wait to hear some of the stories of just like the behind the scenes and all that, because I can't imagine dude, Dylan has got to just. I probably
got a
couldn't keep a
bunch for
straight
him.
face. Yeah,
I have a list of stuff for when we get those guys, and we're gonna do that one hopefully in person in our studio and do it like that. All right. Did you like how I said we're gonna do quick hitting Leinart leaderboard, and we just did
bro? I mean, this is what throwbacks do. We just throw back all the time. This is what we're all about. We can go from Heisman candidates to reading scripts.
Next one for Leinart's leaderboard. Who's the best team in the nation right now for you?
Dude, for me, so right now Texas is ranked 1. And I would say Texas. And only reason why is because obviously they have a big win against Michigan on the road. I don't know how great Michigan is coming out. They beat USC last week. That's better than I would have Ohio State 2. Mm-hmm. Ohio State has been dominant. I think Ohio State, when it's all said and done, once they kind of get into this, they might end up being that. You can debate both those teams. I think Texas, even with Arch Manning right now, Quinn Ewers nursing an injury, probably number 1. But at this point, look, Texas is going to get in the meat of an SEC schedule. Ohio State's going to get into the meat of a Big Ten schedule. As it usually does, it'll all play itself out. But those two teams are loaded, man. Loaded.
Last one. What's your biggest surprise in the name? It could be a player or a team. Just something you're surprised by you didn't see coming into the year.
The biggest surprise. That's a good question. I kind of think Tennessee to me is such a Tennessee and Ole Miss. Put it this way: SEC has kind of been Georgia and Bama. What feels like the last 20 years, mainly Alabama and then Georgia the last handful of years. Maybe it's a changing of the guard. I don't know. The 12-team playoff, there's going to get a lot of teams in there, but this year in particular, Tennessee's really good. Ole Miss, I think this is Lane's best team. So not necessarily surprised, but just keep an eye on those types of teams. Also, Penn State is kind of flying under the radar, and they got a big one this weekend. But and then usually then teams just aren't as good as we think they are in the preseason and all that. So it's been fun though, man. And this is kind of week 4 or 5 we're getting into. Now it's starting to get there's good games week in and week out, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where it's getting very hard to figure out, which is a perfect segue into our kind of final thoughts on week 3, moving into week 4 in the NFL. I am as confused as ever. I tried doing this spiderweb approach where it's okay. So Giants get blown out by Minnesota. That means the Giants stink because Minnesota's not good. But then Minnesota beats San Francisco and wins again. Minnesota's actually good. So maybe the Giants aren't that bad. But then they lose to Washington. Washington we know stinks. But then Washington goes out and beats the Bengals. So at the end of the day, we know nothing still.
That's how it always is, dude.
But I found myself this is what I was trying to figure out. Which teams at least have identities in this world of parity that we live in, where anyone could beat anyone week in, week out, and that's going to probably be that way to the playoffs. But which team now have true, hey, I know the identity of this team. I know what they need to do, what they want to do, and the question will be, will they do it? I have a few.
Yeah,
and I think they have staying power.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs go without saying, right? We don't even need to get into them. I think
no, but they're closers, right? Wouldn't you say that their identity is?
But we just know at the end of the day, the Chiefs will be in the mix to win a Super Bowl. Obviously, health aside, that we just know that. I think Buffalo is the same. Buffalo's in the same boat, right? Buffalo's off to a great start. Now, have they had success in the playoffs and beating Chiefs? No, but I even would put the Jets in there, dude. I just think the Jets are 2-1. I have a lot of trust in Aaron Rodgers and what they're doing. Here's 2 teams that I'm not necessarily buying right now, and I'm curious if you agree. Seattle is 3-0. They've beaten the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Dolphins minus Tua.
Right.
So that's why, it's a good team, and they're atop obviously the NFC West, but that's why you just have to kind of wait and see. The Steelers, I think we might disagree on this, but the Steelers, I trust Tomlin. I trust the organization. I trust the culture. I trust all of those things. This team is averaging 17 points per game. They've beaten the Broncos, and they beat the Chargers without Justin Herbert. So, they're there. And by the way, but like again, so sometimes you have to kind of like to your point, the Giants might be better than we think because Minnesota, Seattle might not be as good as we think. I don't know. Like, do you agree on the Steelers? Like,
I feel like, yeah, I think the Steelers, though, to me, when talking about identity, I think after the Chiefs and Mahomes, who I equate now, I was thinking about the other day, being around all these Yankees, it's like, these are like the 90s Yankees. Like, and Mahomes turns into Mariano coming out of the bullpen with 1 minute left. You just know, you give him the ball, it's over. The Steelers, to me, have an identity. It's amazing defense. TJ Watt is a man possessed. Fields, only one pick. He's been, I don't even think they've really let him go intentionally. They're trying to keep turnovers down. I think he's getting more confident. It's clearly his job. They, to me, have a very clear identity, and they got a nice little lead in a wild division.
Well, that's a big thing with them is like, can they win playing the way they are? I mean, I said they're averaging 17 points per game. Typically in the NFL, we used to always say, if you're getting a touchdown a quarter, right? If you're getting 28 points a game, you're winning a whole hell of a lot of games.
Can you win? You're getting 24.
Can you win that way? Consistently, and maybe they can because, if you said, like, Tomlin is fantastic coach. I'm just not as like, I just want to see more because I think Baltimore will end up coming back in that division. Cincinnati is in all types of trouble, dude. And
now they got to battle
the Red Rocket.
Again, you can't script this stuff any better. The simulation is working really well. If Dalton goes in and beats the Bengals,
dude, the Red Rifle is back.
So yeah, and I found such a hard time breaking down that like Commanders-Bengals game. Was that bad Bengals or just really good Daniels and really good Commanders? I think it was good Commanders. They were the better team.
I mean, Burrow played. I mean, they scored 33 points. I mean, they played their ass off. How about quick on the Red Rifle? I played against Andy Dalton when he was in the playoff game when I was in Houston, when he was in Cincinnati.
Wow.
That's how old I'm getting, dude. 12. I think he was a rookie. It was either 2010 or 11. We were in Houston and we hosted them, and they came and we beat them. We ended up beating them, but he was the quarterback of that team.
If the Panthers and Andy Dalton beat the Bengals, then that's going to be a problem. We'll talk about teams that need W's, but also another just strictly confusing team are the Raiders. You know, they had that great come from behind win over the Ravens, then they go just lay a stinker. And then Antonio Pierce, who is my guy, he's a Super Bowl champion. He was part of that 07 team. I have him near and dear to my heart. He was an awesome giant defender in the history books to me because he talked a lot and he backed it up. Now as a coach, and he did the whole players are making business decisions. And what's your feeling on when a coach publicly says stuff like that? And then do players actually make business decisions? Look, personally, I would. If this game's over, I'm not trying to be out here getting hurt, but I'm not an NFL football player.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, dude, it all depends on the situation. I'm not exactly sure, maybe we can do a little research and try to figure out who he was talking about.
It has to be a defensive player, right? It has to be.
One, anytime a coach says that there's something going on in the locker room, there's something going on behind the scenes, which isn't great. Obviously, I think Minshew is starting this week, but he came out and talked about the quarterback situation. So that's one thing that can divide a locker room. And then when a coach is publicly saying, hey, there's guys, like, that's going to now be addressed within the locker room. It's going to now be addressed in these team meetings. And by the way, I wouldn't put it past Antonio Pierce if he is literally, dude, so the day after a game, when we go to a team meeting, win or lose, typically coaches will pull a handful of plays and they will just call you out in front of the whole team. Right. Quarterback, we cannot turn the ball over like this to win a game. You got to get better, Leinart. Whatever. Hey, Devontae Adams, whatever. Dude, he might have pulled some plays up from the film and within that locker room. And then what does that do, to your point, what does that do to the locker room? I have never been on a team where, now if it's a contract year and there's a disgruntled player and there's those types of circumstances, maybe they just say, hey, I'm my hamstring's tight, guys. My hamstring's tight. No,
yeah, listen, I get it.
That stuff, that is a business decision. But during a game, I can't remember a time, but an injury where say like, hey, I got a hamstring, I'm not going to play. That happens more than you think.
So Raiders are at home against the Browns this week, which is just another mess. I was pretty
Are the
bummed
Raiders the Raiders 2-1 or 1-2?
The Raiders are 1-2.
Yeah, so
Browns, as we know, after my I swore to myself I'm not going to make this a Giants heavy podcast this week but it was a beautiful win. I barely got to see it. They were in Cleveland. I was not here, so I'm going to be watching that game because I think the loser of that game, I think Antonio Pierce maybe gets on the hot seat a little bit, or if they manage to win, and if the Browns are now 1-3. Losing to the Giants and the Raiders back to back, do we start? Everyone's going to start to have the Jameis Winston conversation, right?
I mean, I think that's probably already happening. I don't know if you can. I mean, dude, you're paying the dude $50 million. But
at some point, I get that. At some point, if it's not working, and if you look what you did with Flacco. Right? That's what won Stefanski Coach of the Year for a second time, is because he had 5 quarterbacks last year. He managed to 10 wins,
I think it depends
wins?
on how he plays. If they lose this game and they struggle, because they played decent last week, so they lose this game, then maybe there's some talks. And it's early, dude.
I know they were spotted a 7-point lead. The Giants fumbled the kickoff, gave the Browns the ball on the 8. They score right away. They basically and this is the Giants we're talking about. Spotted the Browns 7 points and got very conservative in the fourth quarter, but pretty much for 3.5 quarters were in control of every moment of that game. And then they got real conservative and scary.
Deshaun Watson was 200 yards, a couple touchdowns, no interceptions. I'm glad I benched Amari Cooper in my fantasy. He finally had a game. Jesus.
Well, I got to admit something. I was wrong. I know we're going to come at you for a take that is controversial. I had a take earlier. It might have been in the first episode of this podcast, for all I know. Another team that has an identity is the Green Bay Packers. Yeah. And what that identity is LaFleur is an amazing coach, and he's on his way to start getting some Coach of the Year talks, because what he did with Malik Willis was great. I talked about, Jordan Love's going to be great. The receivers, they have a bunch of young guys who's going to emerge. Reed's kind of emerged, but the defense is a lot better than anybody thought. I almost started them last week.
What do I tell you with young quarterbacks and coaching, man? You get them in a situation where you play to their strengths. You don't put too much on their plate. Obviously, they have some good players around him. And all of a sudden, Malik Willis, didn't work out in Tennessee. Now he's thriving. And good for him, because he's playing himself into a nice little contract somewhere.
Yeah.
Even whether it's backing up Love or maybe getting a shot, depending on, I assume Love is back pretty soon.
Not betting against him again. I bet him against him for 2 weeks. It's never happening
to your point, LaFleur and that system and Shanahan, I can't pound the table enough for that tree of coaches and what they can do to a quarterback. I can't. It's unreal. O'Connell as well with Darnold.
Well, that's going to be a fun matchup too. We got our first real divisional game with some stakes with Vikings, Packers, and Jordan Love may be back. Who knows? Right. But either way, that's going to be a fun one. So that brings me to our next kind of fun NFL thing. Who needs it the most? It's so hard to pick one. So I have one, but you could almost pick any team.
Well, I'm picking the Bengals, dude.
You're picking the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean,
so they go 0-4. No team has made the playoffs going 0-4 since 1992. The only team who's done it, the Chargers in 92. I want to say it's Stan Humphries.
it's like they're 0-3, and now they play Carolina, who there's a little more incentive there with Andy Dalton, and just that kind of makes it a fun story, right, surrounding this game. Carolina scored a lot of points last week, and I just say this: the Bengals lost to the Patriots. We know the Patriots aren't a very good team. There's a lot going on with Cincinnati right now. I would not. I mean, look, I don't know what the spread is. I think it might be a touchdown. I wouldn't be shocked if Carolina wins this game. And holy hell.
So that means if you lost, that means you lost to the Patriots, the Commanders, and the Panthers, and you haven't even started your divisional games yet, which I think are the week after against the Ravens.
I just think they need it, because 0-3, you're hanging on by a thread. 1-3, okay, all right, we can build. Right, then I don't know who they play next week, but then you get all of a sudden you're 2-3, and then you're right there. It's a long season. You're kind of right there, and you're in a division where the Browns aren't very good. Obviously, we talked about the Steelers, but the Steelers are, they're not a juggernaut right now. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Well, dumb fan take, too. This is what fans like me think. If the Bengals find themselves 0-4, 0-5, at what point do you start saying, maybe we like give Burrow the rest of the year off, get that wrist in shape.
Stop.
I know you don't do that. I know
you don't do that.
I totally understand you don't do
and
that.
he wouldn't do that.
And he wouldn't do that, but it crosses my mind because I'm thinking of
it's a job.
Longevity. And I love Joe Burrow. I want him healthy. All right, for me, you're probably going to hate this one, but it's the Bears. And here's why. I know the expectations were high going into this season for the most part, but things have looked so bad with the offensive line. DeAndre Swift has, they spent a lot of money on DeAndre, not performed. They're playing the Rams at home. Rams are good. And
Dude,
But you lose this one, you drop down to 1-3. That's a big problem. But if you could somehow steal this one, if you're the Bears at home, I know you shouldn't be stealing games at home, and they are the favorites, I believe. You hold court at home, you go 2-2, then you got the Panthers. Then you got the Jags, who's another team who needs a win. The Commanders, the Patriots. So you get 4 more games in a row with winnable before you start getting into your division game. I think this is a big one for the Bears.
Dude, our boy, we had Kutcher on episode 1. He texted me. He texted me Sunday. He's like, I take back my playoff wins. I go, bro, you need an offensive line, dude.
Well, you just know if they lose and they go 1-3, it's going to start falling on Caleb, and you can start hearing that chirping. The coach is for sure going to be maybe the next one or the first one on the hot seat. And all the chirping's really going to start if they lose at home to the Rams.
That division is so hard, dude.
Yeah.
Minnesota 3-0, Detroit 2-1. We know Detroit's a legit team. Green Bay 2-1. I mean, like 3 teams from that division could make the playoffs.
It's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly.
Listen, it's a learning curve, man. Welcome to the NFL. You take these years, you learn from them. But yeah, man, that's a good call because the Rams are sneaky good, even with all the injuries.
Good. Really quick before we hit the break, too. My God, I know the Giants play tonight against the Cowboys. They haven't beaten the Cowboys in 100 years at home, and I know the Giants aren't good.
The Cowboys are coming out with a vengeance.
I know it's such a bad setup. I wanted the Cowboys to beat the Ravens just so they weren't coming into this game so pissed off and desperate.
Are you glued to the couch tonight?
I'm glued. They sucked me back in.
Yeah, dude.
And my manager, Lev, said, you buried Danny Dimes. You're off the wagon. Now you're back. They sucked me back in. And I hate it, but I'm going to be glued tonight.
Before we go to break, we're going to get Danny Dimes on the pod. And you're going to confront him. And I'm going to
I feel like he's going to confront me if they beat the Cowboys.
Well, no,
he'll be like, you ran your mouth.
He's too nice of a guy, but I'm going to stir the pot between you two for sure. Yeah.
Do you have a relationship with him or you never really met him?
I don't.
What better way to start? Just like us on the podcast. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get to our Wendy's Can't Get Enough Sauce moment of the week. And Maddie's wife, Josie, who might become a permanent pod. Maybe we'll kick Matt off and I'll do the pod with Josie coming up next.
A chill in the air, leaves falling to the ground, and football every weekend. That's what fall is all about. You can make each weekend even more exciting by getting into the action with my partners at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet on touchdowns. And right now, all new customers who bet $5 will instantly get $200 in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using my promo code Throwbacks. That's $200 in bonus bets instantly if you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code Throwbacks and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code Throwbacks, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11.
You can choose between flavors like buffalo, you got honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker, you can try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. I dare you.
I'm a heat seeker. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before.
For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
All right, it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show, the Can't Get Enough Sauce moment of the week, brought to you by Wendy's. Big shout out to Wendy's. Every week, Matt and I kind of highlight a player or team did something positive on or off the field. Matt, this one kind of pains me. I have to do it because I have to tell the truth, but this one hurts to say out loud.
Tell me.
I'm going with Saquon Barkley.
Oh,
I'm going with Saquon because, you and I were on the Dan Patrick show a few weeks ago. Recently, after he had the drop, Saquon was scheduled to be on the Dan Patrick Show the next day. Paulie, the producer, tweeted out that it was a cancellation. He wasn't ready to quite talk, but Saquon
I don't blame
himself,
him. I don't blame him.
Yeah. He reached out personally to the show, something Paulie said in all his years he never saw. And then after my New York Football Giants get their first win, Saquon calls Danny Dimes, his former teammate, to congratulate him on the win and pump him up. I just thought that was awesome. You don't hear stories like that much in the NFL. Saquon, you're my guy.
Also, first of all, taking accountability. You know, he dropped the ball and that they probably win the game. So he took full responsibility, even though Sirianni and everybody else was taking heat. It is what it is. And then to reach out to the producer, I saw that too. That's awesome. You don't
fantastic.
Just athletes don't do that. And then to congratulate Danny Dimes for just what he's been through, the criticism. Saquon Barkley, all around great dude, great player, crushing it, by the way. I know I'm sorry for your Giants because they don't have him anymore, but I'm happy for him. All right, so I'm actually going to stay in the NFL. And, dude, I'm going with the Red Rocket. I'm going with the Red Rifle, okay? And we talked about this last week. We talked about Bryce Young and obviously that. And then it was, I think we said, like, what if Andy Dalton just goes out and balls? Then what happens to Bryce? And that's certainly what happened. 320 yards, 3 touchdowns. And now, by the way, this week he gets to play his former team in the Cincinnati Bengals, which
we're
is
in
wild.
the simulation. We're in the simulation part of the NFL.
Look, I think big picture, good for Bryce. He gets to learn from Andy Dalton. But how about Andy Dalton? I think, and then I had 2 300-yard passing games in his only 2 starts for the Panthers. He started a game last year. That's more than any of Bryce Young's 18 starts. Both those things, I know. But I wanted to give a shout out to Andy Dalton. It is not easy to be a backup quarterback in the NFL, especially after you played for a long time. And he just went out there and just dealt. So shout out to the Red Rocket.
Can't get enough. And shout out to Wendy. Yeah, shout out to
Wendy's.
Thank you for sponsoring that segment. And hopefully, our guest doesn't cancel on us like Saquon did. I feel like, though, we get a little inside info if our guest was going to cancel on us.
All right, how about this? So this is pretty exciting. We talked about our podcast, and we're talking about we're going to have our wives on the show. And it's going to be mainly about why we didn't pick up the dog in the backyard or what we didn't get the kids and all this and the chaotic lives that we live. And our wives are the best. But we are going to bring on my wife. And I don't even call her by her first name. I call her Babe, but I'm going to call her Josie Leinart. What's up, Babe?
Hi.
Because my wife wears a lot of hats, okay? She is a super mom, a super wife, a super friend, a super daughter. She is everything. But one of the big hats she wears, she is a lawyer, and she covers NIL and all things going on. And Jerry, this week has been a wild week in the NIL space. We had my boy Reggie earlier in the week talk about his lawsuit versus NCAA, USC. We'll see where that goes. But more recently, this UNLV story. So, first of all, Babe, thank you for joining the Throwback Show. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for having me. It has been one hell of a morning so far.
Please do tell. Why? Are the boys crying this morning?
Jesus. Honestly, I don't know about you, but I am a little terrified that our 4-year-old is going to run into your room or my room because he's home sick from school. So that may happen, but we did everything in our power to keep that from happening.
I just gave him candy and said, stay here for like the next 20. Yeah, I don't care. You said,
Matthew,
by the way,
you said 9 a.m.
You said, go tell him we're going to take him to ice cream later. I said, okay, I'm going to give him candy. Anyway. Yeah. Jerry, what do we got, man?
Well, look, first of all, I want to thank you, Josie, because you're tackling a subject that I thought I knew a lot about. I spent a lot of time this morning on your Instagram account. We are _NIL. By the way, go to that Instagram account if you really want to learn a little bit and figure out what's going on. But I'm not very bright and have a hard time following things. What exactly is Reggie Bush kind of saying here with this lawsuit? Like, what's the point? What is he going after, like previous when he played or even years after he played?
Well, what Reggie Bush is doing is pretty much the same thing that we've been seeing with the House v. NCAA. Right. And then we also had the Michigan football players recently filed a lawsuit in Michigan. But that lawsuit and Reggie's lawsuit is slightly different because the statute of limitations for antitrust cases is 4 years. So, which is why the House v. NCAA case only applies, well, that settlement only applies to athletes that played from 2016 to 2020, because 2020 was when that case was originally filed. Reggie is kind of opening up a can of worms for athletes that played prior to 2016. Same with the Michigan football players.
Right.
So that is, I think that when the House v. NCAA and Alston came out and all of those things, I think the NCAA was thinking, well, if we just get our arms around this lawsuit, if we just figure out how with this settlement we can, appease those players between 2016 and 2020, we'll be in the clear and we can move on. But now this kind of threw a wrench
twist
in the whole plot twist. Yes, exactly. So this would really open, I think, even a bigger can of worms than we're already in.
The big story, which kind of brings us to this next story out of UNLV, and there's a lot of he said, she said going on, and reports continue to come out. But as an attorney, and I've asked you this, the UNLV quarterback, basically what happened is he was promised something, a certain amount of money. It is alleged now it's about $100,000 to play for UNLV to come. He hasn't been paid that, apparently, according to his representation. And the big thing for me is there wasn't a written agreement, which I know you see a lot of these contracts. And so there was a verbal handshake. What does that mean? So, like, what grounds does he have? Can he file a lawsuit against the school? What does that mean if it's just a verbal handshake versus obviously having a written agreement?
Okay, so there's something called the statute of frauds. And the statute of frauds that says that certain agreements over a certain amount of money have to be memorialized in a written agreement. And if it's not in a written agreement, then, poo for you, that's what you should have done, and we're not going to recognize this. However, one of the exceptions, and so clearly if there's no written agreement here, someone can claim statute of frauds. But one of the exceptions to the statute of frauds is partial performance. So here, obviously we don't know the terms and everything that transpired between these two parties, but you can imagine that there was more than partial performance. This guy allegedly moved to Las Vegas to play. He played and he did receive a certain amount of money. He certainly didn't receive the full amount of money that he's alleging he was promised, but he was compensated. So there's performance on both sides of the aisle. And, I don't think that statute of frauds is going to be an argument here. So absolutely. Just because there's not a written agreement doesn't mean that there's not an agreement. And I'm sure that there's going to come out from here on out. We're going to see, there's email correspondence, text messages, and they'll piecemeal an agreement from those terms. That counts. It's not formal. It's not the right way to do things. Absolutely. But it absolutely counts.
Yeah. Is this sort of opening the floodgates though? Like, do you think we're just going to see a lot more because of the, informal way some of these deals are being done? Like, this can't be the only case, right? This is going to be a floodgate opening up with this kind of thing.
I don't think it's a floodgate opening up. I think that unfortunately a lot of these NIL transactions are going down just like this, which for me, I don't understand, because NIL is such big business. It's asinine to think that like companies are doing business on a handshake when people are moving across the country to play for a specific team. And, it just makes no sense to me why these things aren't being taken seriously. But as it, opening the floodgates, no, this is how a lot of this business is being transacted. And if it continues, going like this, where there's these obligations aren't being fulfilled, there's going to be litigation about it, obviously.
I talked to Josie a lot, Jerry, about and she could speak better than I can, but just the bad. I think one of the biggest worries for me when NIL became legalized was, okay, these kids need to be careful of the representation, the agents, the marketing, whoever it is. A lot of bad apples out there basically telling them. And I told you before the show, like there's these market values that these people go off of that are just phantom. They're phantom numbers.
Right.
Like this isn't NFL free agency and these players hold out because, hey, the market is this. These are what the top 10 running backs in the NFL are making. This is what I'm like. There really isn't that. And a lot of these deals are just, whether they're handshakes, they're verbal, they're promises. There's a lot of empty promises. And that's why we're seeing a lot of kids leave. But we're also seeing a lot of misrepresentation and agents promising, hey, you can do this if you go to this school. And it just doesn't come to fruition. I want to call you Bae, but I'm trying to be professional.
Gosh,
the House versus NCAA will fix some of this, right? Or no?
Some of it.
Yeah.
Some of it, but as of right now, the settlement hasn't been approved. So there was no preliminary approval from the judge a couple weeks ago, and actually the next hearing is tomorrow. So we're going to see how the NCAA went back to the drawing board and came up with something else, because there was a big issue. The biggest issue that the judge had was their provision that there would be a third party that would kind of dictate, like, all agreements over $600, they would approve or reject. And that was, the NCAA and, all of the different conferences that are also co-defendants. That was their way to get their arms around the collectives. And the judge said that is not going to fly here. So the defendant said, hey, this could be a deal breaker for my client. So they were sent back to the drawing board, and we'll see what they come up with tomorrow. Because if this blows up, then there is no settlement. Then we go to trial, and I don't see why the NCAA would ever go to trial, because they're going to end up bankrupt.
Right.
If he was promised, and there's receipts and, like you said, email chain threads or whatever, can he sue UNLV for the amount of money that he wasn't promised?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's wild.
That's how it works. But I just don't know how this stuff is happening without a written agreement. And I think the problem, there are some collectives that are so well run. Mm-hmm. And now that the red tape was removed between the universities and the collectives, we've seen a lot of collectives go in-house and are now, under the umbrella of the university. And there's going to be a lot more regulation that comes now that there's that, transparency between the university and the collective. They're working together, blah, blah, blah. But beyond that, like, a lot of these deals took place prior to that rule coming into effect. And I think that these collectives are just running by the seat of their pants and promising money that they don't have and are trying to scrap together, and agreements aren't being made properly. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of these issues, come up as the season transpires. So we'll see.
I just think it's wild to be that age. I try to think back to even when I was like coming up with acting, and a lot of this brings me back to like, I have an agent and a manager and a lawyer, and sometimes I'm wondering, what is everyone doing here, right? Like, what do you need all these people? But then you start hearing about something that's pretty brand new at this point, and seeing how, then the parents are involved. And I watched you speak a lot too on your We Are NIL Instagram account, just about speaking to the kids. Almost, I call them kids with all due respect. They're young men and women.
Yes.
And just what to expect. And that's the work I want to see happen too, because I remember being young, and I remember even making some money and having a friend ask me hey, can I borrow $1,000? I got a business idea. And I wish I had someone telling me, hey, for you to make $1,000, you have to make like $2,200 to clear $1,000. And I actually asking you for $1,000, they're asking you for $2,200. And are we going to start seeing more, like I said, you guys spoke up about it on the Instagram account. I feel like we have to start seeing that more.
Seeing what more specific?
Just people talking to the people, whether they're lawyers, agents, taking accountability, and not just helping the players make deals and make money, but actually, you'd like to think it's the parents, but not everyone has parents out there that also have the background to help.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that struck me about this was because when this story first came out, and mind you, it's just been a couple hours. So even in the last couple hours, it's been developing. I think right now he's being repped by Equity Sports, which is a really big agency. I don't know if they were behind the deal back earlier this year and they brokered the deal. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my whole thing is, I don't know how an agent brokers this deal and doesn't have something written. Like, that's your job. That's why you go out and you hire an agent, because you don't know any better. So you're putting all of your eggs in their basket and hoping that they friggin' protect you. It was their job to protect him. I think that was completely fumbled on the agent's behalf. Mind you, again, I don't know who the agent was at the time, whether that was Equity Sports or not. I don't know. But the fact that you don't have a written agreement, that you can't come back and say, yo, these are the terms and this was not fulfilled, that to me is just, I don't get it. From a lawyer's point of view, I just don't get it. And if I had a son, I would never allow them to just follow through on a handshake.
Yeah.
This is why you get married to a lawyer, Jerry. You just protect it.
I'm getting upset. I'm actually, my blood pressure is
I would
raising.
say I think all sides probably fumbled this based on what we've seen so far, and it continues to come out more and more stories. But I think, Jerry, to your point too, we're seeing, I think it's like an educational piece, right? We're seeing 17, 18-year-old kids now in high school, right? In a lot of states can make money off their NIL. California included them. You know, we live in a state where these high school kids can make money. We are seeing more and more colleges offer up like financial literacy courses and just educational courses to what you're talking about. Like whether it's learning what a contract is, or whether it's taxes, like just basic financial 101, because now they're getting taxed. Like all these things that these kids have no idea what, like I didn't know at 18, you know, obviously I wasn't making money, but at 18, I would have known what to do. And Josie and her firm are doing a lot, like speaking across the country and speaking to classes and teams and all that, and just educating them, which I think we need. Yeah, but it's wild. It's going to be interesting to see the precedent that this may start with. A lot of the, you know, this isn't the only deal in college football or college athletics where a school hasn't allegedly upheld their side of a deal. It'll be interesting. It's just we haven't seen it happen mid-season, right? In the midst of the mid-season, which that is what's wild. Like you talk about like holdouts in the NFL. They're holding out preseason and they're trying to get a deal done, and maybe it leaks over to one game. But at the end of the day, usually those deals get done. This is 3 games in to a team, to a starting quarterback, a team that's undefeated right now.
So, but my question to you, because obviously again, these are all allegations and things are developing literally as we're talking right now. But if everything that's come out thus far is true, he had grounds to do what he did, to pull out, to redshirt, blah, blah, blah. They didn't follow, they didn't fulfill the agreement, fine. But I'm like, how does that affect you as a player? How does that affect your future? Like if you do have hopes to go into the NFL, and like, how is this move perceived by coaches in the NFL or things like that? Like, that's a whole other piece.
That's so interesting. That's going to be part of like the interview process now when going into the NFL, right? Because all this stuff's becoming knowledgeable. You could pick that apart and ask that question once more facts come out, and use that against his draft status. You know,
well, that too, and like also just from within a locker room standpoint, you know, again, I'm using the NFL, but like professional sports are different. You know, these are grown men and women who are making a lot of money. There's contracts, like there's all these things. Like this is still a form of amateurism, even though it's really not at this point. But you know, in that locker room, like you have a 19-year-old kid or 18-year-old kid who's getting paid X amount of money, starting quarterback for your team. Now all of a sudden it's like a piece, which if this is all true, you kind of you understand his point. Like, hey, I was promised something to come here. I left this school to come here, but how does the ripple effect that has from a locker room standpoint, the team, how it's viewed, how he's viewed across, like, yeah, it just, there's a lot to unpack there, I think, for an 18, 19-year-old kid who was just literally promised something that he wasn't given. You know, it's yeah, dude, it's wild. Buckle up. I would say that. Buckle up.
I don't know. I would like, I think it's so ballsy to do what he did. And I'm not saying that he didn't have grounds, because it sounds like he certainly did. But I don't know. I probably would have said, just finish
out
this season, and then we'll sue them for breach of contract. You know, I don't know. That's how I probably would have done it. But
well, there's gonna be a lot of eyes on that UNLV game coming up. That's for sure. A lot of people maybe weren't interested in running Rebels football are gonna take it in. Josie, I got. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel so bad for the players who are on this 3-0 winning streak and like have all of these high hopes. They're a top 25 team. I'm like, God, that sucks.
Who knows, though? Maybe it
the
galvanizes.
The head coach is just like, by the way, guys, we just lost our starting quarterback. We're week 4.
I know.
All right, hey, buddy, you're next up. It's like, what?
Right. Let's get you ready for the game. Let's get you caught up to speed.
Yeah, it's just wild, man.
Crazy.
Well, you know, as a father of 2 kids who are clearly going D1, if you just look at me, you know my kids will be playing college football. I will learn from all this. And
dude, they got golf, buddy. They got golf. You don't need to be past 5'8" to golf.
I said that to Bree on the way down. I told her that we were talking to you today, Josie, and explained a little bit of it. She's like, this is something we'll never have to worry about. Sorry, Jacob and James.
Deal with modeling contracts because the kids are so damn cute.
By the way, dude, Altuve's 5'6", bro. You got a shot.
That's my yearly Halloween costume. You know that, right? We've talked about this. People think I look like him, or
you do kind of look like it, yeah.
So, in that whole Astros run in the World Series when they were knocking the Yankees out every year,
was that when they were cheating?
People were doing the side by side. So now I just throw on an Astros jersey and a hat, and it's the easiest Halloween costume ever. It replaced Rudy. I used to go as Rudy, another short player, and now I go as Jose Altuve. But speaking of jerseys, real quick, Josie, before we let you go, you know, our boy here, he's wearing, we told people at the top of the show, he's wearing his Kobe Bryant Lakers jersey, and he stands by the fact, too, that he doesn't leave the house with it. Do you ever see Matt really going far outside the house with the Kobe jersey? Like, not coffee doesn't count. I'm saying, like, if he's going out for the day, hey, I got a bunch of meat.
Bro, zero chance. I'll answer for him.
No, I've seen him go out of the house with it to, like, I don't know, maybe get gas.
Right, he's not leaving the car, essentially. He's still inside.
Or maybe even, I don't even think he drop off the kids with that. But he wears it constantly. And it's older. How old is that thing? You've had it longer than we've been together, which is a long time. Like 11, 12 years.
Listen,
how long have you had it?
This is like my lounge, a long time. This is like my lounge wear at the house. Maybe gas, maybe coffee, maybe a store run. I'm sure I've done that. And in the summer when it's hot.
Store run.
But I will not wear this to a game.
Okay.
No,
I just won't. I won't wear it. I won't wear it to the bar with my friends on a Sunday to represent my team. And babe, I just got crushed for this take this week.
That's
like,
we're going.
We're throwing away all our Leinart jerseys. I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, I guess you have a good point. I mean, there's a different thing between being passionate about a team and all that. It's just like I just.
Matt is not, and I guess we both are this way. Like we're not, and this may sound bad. We aren't like fanatics.
Right, like me. Right, you guys aren't like
fanatic.
We're not. And obviously he loves USC, supports USC. But yeah, it's just not
Dodgers.
We're not fanatics.
This is why we're a good podcast couple, Matt.
Jerry's a fanatic.
Josie,
yeah, I don't understand that mentality, but
thank you
I think it's fun.
I feel like I'm like a little smarter after today because I walked around like, oh yeah, NIL. Well, I get it. I did not get it because I did a lot of research getting ready to talk to you. And I encourage everyone to go to _NIL if you want. Just great stuff. You tackle everything. It's not just the UNLV situation. It's everything. So that was awesome. And you're going to be busy, I feel like. I feel like there's going to be a lot coming up every day.
It's getting very busy, like very, very busy.
Yeah.
As I progressively get more pregnant. So that's just the irony of it all.
Oh, we're getting you back up. That's a whole separate episode.
Don't worry, Jerry's right behind you. Don't worry. We don't have breaking news yet, but we will at some point.
My wife went from acting to becoming a birth doula, so we could discuss all that too. Big transition. Yes. But thank you. Seriously, that was awesome.
Doll.
Matt, you want to call her babe one last time?
I just called her doll. I like to call her doll. So thank you, doll.
You're the best.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you for that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, we're coming back here. So, Matt, we have our first, I referenced it earlier, our first sort of take where you got a lot of pushback. So, it's all about you.
It wouldn't be my first time, Jerry.
Let's just quickly play the clip. So this way, if you didn't listen last week, shame on you. But here's what we're talking about. Let's play the clip of Matt saying what he had said.
I also don't understand like whether like a grown man wearing a jersey. I don't know, man. It's just like a weird thing to me. Like I could picture weirdly, I could picture you wearing a jersey, and like I think it's okay. But I've never understood. Like I would never go. And I love Jim Brunson, but I would never go to a sporting event wearing a Kobe jersey or I'm wearing a Dodger t-shirt right now. This is about as good as you'll get from me.
I just always these days.
I always laugh when grown men are wearing jerseys.
Couple of things to unpack there as you sit there in your Kobe jersey.
Well, I wanted to give the fans what they want. I do own jerseys. Okay. They are in my
Number
closet.
one, I think that's factually incorrect. You have done it, and we just had a lawyer on the air. So let the evidence show you, Matt Leinart, have in fact done that.
Yes, I did. And
you were a kid, though. You were young.
Yeah, I was 20. I was a grown man. I was 24. I wore a Kobe jersey to a Laker game, a white Sunday jersey, by the way, a white Laker jersey to a game, and I spoke to Kobe on the court. Okay, and now I'm wondering, and rest in peace, man, my favorite athlete. I'm wondering if he was judging me in that moment of me wearing his jersey. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, it's kind of strange.
But yeah, look at this fan.
It's a hypocritical statement, that's for sure. But that was also 18 years ago when I was
true.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give you a pass. But you know who didn't give you a pass was everyone who follows you and me and Throwback Show on social media. I'm just gonna read a few brief ones. At the Cam Hammer, unfun take. If legendary player sportscaster don't want fans wearing jerseys, hell, nobody should buy merch then. Matter of fact, let's lower the TV contracts and the salaries too.
Oh.
Wow.
I got a, what is it? Don James Sports. Horrible take at Matt Leonard QB, and I love you. Like just the double sword. Just like, God, I love you, but you suck.
Well, even
There it
better.
is.
Oh, there's the, listen, what, if my eyes aren't deceiving me, that's Matty Ice in a white Kobe. Now, did they give you that jersey while you were there? Or did you go to Staples?
I got to be
wearing
honest,
it?
dude. I probably went to Staples at the time wearing that. And that's one of my buddies, Daniel, who look at the way he's looking at Kobe, dude. That is his favorite athlete and player of all time. This picture was taken in 2006, probably. He still every once in a while will send me this photo. He goes, dude, the greatest day of my life. By the way, this was greater than watching my kids be born. Like literally.
Do you remember what was said? Do you remember what was said?
I don't know. But now, dude, I don't know. But
he was just probably telling you to get something had to be sports related, right?
Yeah,
I feel like he's probably talking to you about football.
Yeah, this is off season. This is before the game. Shoot around. I was probably sitting closer to the court. I just said, "Oh, what's up?" And I had known him a little bit. He was awesome, man. And we got to know each other over the years, like on a more personal level than just kind of sports and all that kind of stuff. So, shout out to Kobe. But yes, dude, I listen. I'm gonna defend myself. I work in a business. I work in a business that is an opinionated business. I get paid to give opinions for the most part. I am not going to backtrack on my stance. I will say this for me personally. There are two things that it's just not in me to do. One is I will never, and I say never with an asterisk because if my kids are involved, yes. I have never been the guy to go up to a famous person, a famous athlete to ask for an autograph, right?
You don't fanboy.
I don't fanboy. And by the way, it's totally fine. I'm just saying for me personally, I've just never been that. Like if I saw like I saw Michael Jordan, I would be like, hey, I might be starstruck, but I'm like, I'm just not going to do that. Now, if my kid was there and it's like that, then you have kind of like a cop out and all that kind of stuff. And the same goes with the jersey. Now, I know I wore that, but I'm still going to defend myself. I have not worn a jersey in public since that game. Never. Never to a sporting vet. Not once. And there's no proof out there, so no one can see that. I just don't understand being a fanatic for a team in that regard, because I don't have that. I love the Dodgers. But I'll wear a t-shirt. I'll wear blue. I'll wear a hat. I'm not going to wear a Clayton Kershaw jersey to a game. So I stand by it, dude. People can burn my jersey in the trash, bro. I appreciate the fans. What do you got there?
Well, is this acceptable? Like, all right, we got a Giants jersey right here.
Let me ask you a question. Have you worn that? Have you worn that? Yeah, I mean, you got turtle on the back. That's kind of cool.
I wore this episode, and then I found this tag right here. Basically, it's saying, like, the wardrobe department wrote, like, Jerry wore this with, it's just what I wore for continuity.
Okay,
so
but
I
have you worn that jersey to a...
no, because it says turtle on the back, so I would just be... No, but I have worn...
You've worn a New York Knicks jersey courtside, guaranteed.
I definitely worn Knicks jerseys. I've worn Yankees jerseys to Yankee games for sure. Look, I look at it differently. Like, I understand what you're saying. For me, if you're wearing it to a game, I get it. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I just think it's funny.
I made a career off of wearing jerseys, so it's hard for me to hate on.
I get it. I just think it's funny.
You
like
too,
if I'm
but
walking,
in a much different way.
If I'm walking in my town on a Sunday, and there's a sports bar, and it's loaded with, and I just see like a 50-year-old dude walking in with a Jalen Brunson jersey on, I'm just like, it just makes me giggle, dude. That's it. I don't know how to explain it. So, look, I took a lot of heat. I appreciate. Hey, listen, I appreciate that. I appreciate the debate back and forth. But that's why I'm wearing for everybody that can see and the listeners, I am wearing my old school Kobe jersey. This jersey has made its rounds, though. Like this jersey, it might be time to hang it up, but I'm holding on to it for dear life.
Well, Shal Insane also said on Twitter, note to self, don't meet Matt while wearing his jersey.
Dude, this is gonna be a thing now because I'm gonna be out and someone's gonna be like, "Hey, do you like my jersey, bro?"
It's gonna be a thing. I don't think the picture helps you, but we'll move on. You're safe for now, but I feel
By the
like
way, I will say this: I had a lot, thanks to Andrew, our producer on here. I had a lot of guys who supported me as well. So
yeah, we didn't pull those. We didn't want to hear it. we didn't look hard for those, but they're out there.
I'm gonna start rocking a jersey everywhere I go now.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. You gotta zag while everyone is zigging, and you're taking now. It's reinvention, Maddie.
By the way, when we have our 3-point contest, you best believe I will be wearing my Kobe jersey.
Well, who should I wear? That's a
Rodman.
good question.
Because you can't shoot, bro. I'm already in your head.
So.
Actually, I'm actually surprised. Your highlights from the Celebrity All-Star Game was not bad. Not as bad as I envisioned.
I talked to quite a few people about this 3-point contest we're going to do in LA soon. And then I was reminded by one thing while I was at the Jeter. Cliff Floyd, who is not a professional golfer, I don't even know what his handicap is. He could move it. He was still able to hit it 330 yards because he's an athlete. Your 3-point shooting video is a little scary. It is a lot of people have said, "Oh, that's trouble. He's just flicking it."
Dude, I'm telling you, man, we're gonna do it at USC, the Galen Center. We're gonna have an audience. I might even have USC's basketball team be there. I'm boys with the coach, and we're just gonna make this an event. We're gonna turn it into an event.
All right. Well, listen. It's time to wrap up. We like to end every week with what are we watching? What are you watching this weekend, Matt? It could be sports, could be TV show, could be anything. What do you could be a player?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm watching my Dodgers close this out, man. Like that's my team. Tight race in the NL West. And Ohtani just
no way he gets to 60, right? 66. He's going to run out of games. But
yeah, they only got a couple games left. But
wow,
I know we're going to bring in some baseball guys here coming up on the pod just to talk baseball. But I love there's nothing better than the fall football, but October baseball playoffs. But I'll be watching Ohtani and the Dodgers, man. They need to finish strong here.
Who's your top 3? Do you have a top 3 or even just what box office must-watch players? Ohtani, I'm guessing, is one.
Currently? I would say
I
Ohtani,
have 3.
when I caught the first pitch for Reggie, I met Ohtani in the tunnel. We posted that video. That was pretty
amazing.
Rad.
Yeah.
So Ohtani's one. I've seen him play, but yeah, that's just one like where every time he's up to bat, you're just like you're glued. Like every swing is like.
I've seen him play in Cleveland when he was
right.
with the Angels, and
It's
everyone's
pretty wild.
phone came out.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I would say NBA. You know, I've never seen Steph Curry play in person.
Incredible.
That would be pretty cool, even though now, you know, not in the prime anymore, but still tremendous. I think just the entertainment value. Gosh, who else, man? Like,
well,
Mahomes again. Just
I have
Mahomes.
Mahomes. I have Ohtani. I have Mahomes, and I got to see him in the Super Bowl, and it was pretty cool to see him get the ball back with a minute to go and win the game. But also Wemby. Go see Wemby.
Yeah, I think too for everybody, you know, all the listeners and all that. Like, email us, talk to us. Like, who would you pay to see? What athlete would you pay to see one time in your lifetime?
Yeah,
you know who else? Simone Biles.
Simone Biles. Yeah,
I appreciate greatness. I appreciate greatness and just like one of ones. You know what I mean? Like just hard to replicate. Wemby's a perfect example. Like we'll never see another player like that, and he's only year 2. Like it's wild. No.
Giannis, I still hold out hope
too for me.
I still hold out hope that Tiger will compete in a major again. I don't think we're ever going to see it, but I hold up hope.
Dude, I saw opening round U.S. Open Tiger Torrey Pines. The tournament he went extra holes with Rocco Mediate.
When he had a broken knee and a broken leg.
I saw for Father's Day. It was Father's Day weekend. It was me and my pop. I think Cole was like 2 or 3, and I stood on the tee box. It was the only time I ever done this. I stood on the tee box and watched Tiger hit hole 1. It was awesome, dude. It was totally awesome.
We'll never beat peak Tiger. It just won't happen.
Ever.
As great as Scotty Scheffler is, and he's amazing to watch,
There's
never
no one
beat
like
it.
him.
Do you know what I'm watching? Look, I'm obviously going to
watching?
watch my Giants tonight. I'm very curious to see Packers, Vikings, and Bills, Ravens. But going semi-sports route, the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix just dropped. 6 episodes, I think. I was a wrestling kid
me
when
too.
I was younger. So my brother and I still send us he sends me like 80s wrestler memes all day long. I gotta watch that. And
Dude,
that's something my wife will have no interest in.
Oh,
Zero interest. So I'm on my own with that one.
Dude, I met, speaking of autographs, I met one of the cool, I was a kid, I was like 7. I met the Ultimate Warrior. Remember the Ultimate Warrior?
That's my favorite wrestler of all time.
I met him in LAX, I think when I was, I don't even know, 5, 6. And
Was it hard to spot him without the face paint?
No, I got his autograph on a little just college ruled paper. I don't have it anymore, but I had it forever, dude. That'll be a fascinating doc. That'll be a fascinating doc.
I can't wait to watch it. I know he just released some quotes on Twitter or whatever. He put out a statement that he's just because he participated in it, but he's unhappy with the takes and the version that the producers used. I think Bill Simmons is one of the producers. Didn't tell the whole story and told it a certain. Of course, he's going to say that. I'm watching that this weekend. It's time.
We'll talk about it next week, man. I'm curious.
Yeah. Thank you again, everybody listening. Thank you to Josie Leinart for coming on, shedding some light on the NIL. And also, don't forget, subscribe to us on YouTube, Throwback Show, and social media. All the handles are at Throwback Show. Give us the sub, give us the like, all that. And then, pay attention to the social media. We're going to put up a poll because we got to just close this jersey thing out. So we'll see you guys next week.
Later.
Oh, wait, Matt, where are you going quick? Where are you going? You going?
Central Florida. By the way,
we'll
DJ Khaled coming on the show.
Stop. Are you introing him?
I'll probably not intro him this way. I got to intro Offset, but we got DJ Khaled. DJ Khaled's coming on. So
I played 1v1 with him in a golf match. Ask him a golf question. He's going to say, "Let's golf." Right down the middle.